Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics AFLW Fantasy pre-lockout chat. Apologies for the 10-minute delay there. My computer's just going very, very slow. So finally got, I think, it fixed. So let's get stuck into plenty of chat ahead of round 4 of the AFLW Fantasy season. We've got about 50 minutes just over 50 minutes until lockout. So obviously we're going through all your questions. So if you are tuning in live on Twitter or YouTube, put your questions in the live chat of YouTube or Twitter, and I'll get to answering those throughout the show. But looking forward to another weekend of footy with obviously prelims in the men's, and then obviously the AFLW, and then next week will be good because we won't have this early Friday start, which is going to be good because it's sort of just a very weird time to be getting ready for footy. So next week we've got Thursday night AFLW, and then we've also got very, very early Friday. So I might even see what is happening with if Liam's doing a Twitter space next week. Might even do one on Thursday night ahead of round 4. But anyway, let's get into this round. Funny enough, tonight is not probably the most relevant fantasy game. I don't think too many people have got many players from Hawthorn or Melbourne, except for maybe like your Kate Hawes, maybe Paxman, if a few people have got her. So besides that, I currently don't have anyone from Hawthorn or Melbourne in my side in official, and I don't think I've got anyone in Maria's Magic either. Yeah, so a bit of a sort of not fantasy relevant game for me tonight, but yeah, it should be still interesting nonetheless. But so in terms of trades for the week, I think Maria's Magic is very hard this week. I don't know if I'm the only one that's had difficulty doing trades with Maria's Magic, but I've found it quite hard to find what 3 trades I'm doing. I've currently settled on going a Brand Catasano down to Matty Gorham, and then going a Fleur Davies down to Lauren Wackford. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my third trade because I've only got 16k. So I don't know if I'm going to be going just an Alana G down to a Paris McCarthy to make another 10k going in next week with about 30k, or if I'm going to actually try and maybe move a Cordner or someone on like that. So I'm not, and then again, I can't actually move her on to really anyone that I'd be happy with. So it is quite difficult this week, but I'm fairly happy enough with the side. There's a couple of obviously issues, but not as many compared to official. And official is a little bit easier this week to make trades. So my current moves at this point are I'm going Benici down to Ty Smith, and that cash gives me enough to move Riddell over to Roadbottom, which only costs 42k, and then I'll be going Annalise Lister up to Hannah Priest, which if anyone was tuning into the free kick space last night, it was Daisy Darcy, because I didn't think I could actually afford Hannah Priest, but because I can, I think I'm going to probably pull that plug and bring her in, just playing midfield for St Kilda, and yeah, just sort of I don't know. I think I like her more at this point with that midfield role, but I think both her and Daisy Darcy are 2 great options, along with Tani Evans. If you don't have her, I think they're probably the best 3 options in defence. So, yes, that's what I'm currently looking at doing at the moment. Actually, give me a sec. I'm just going to clear my nose up. Still got some after effects of the cold. So give me 2 seconds. Hang on. There we go. Apologies, guys. As people, if you've ever had the cold, everyone knows bloody for like a week after your nose is just still really stuffed. So apologies for that, but that hopefully I'll be all good from here on in. So yeah, so they're my current trades and what I'm looking at doing. So, but yeah, in terms of options that people are looking at, there's there's plenty of good options out there this week. And again, as I said, Amira's Magic is a bit difficult with trades this week. I think for most people, maybe some people might be able to make trades a little bit easier if they bank cash last week, and that might have been a really good thing. And I did bank cash the week before, but I used that last week to bring in Keely Shearer. But in terms of options, I'm just having a look here at the top round for most traded in players. So you've got Emily Everest is the most traded, was the most traded in player as of a couple of days ago. I don't have the updated most traded in players, but Emily Everest, I'm just trying to get what she's she had a good game last week. What'd she do? 69 points, but the week before she had 19 points from just the 34% game time. So obviously not a lot, and obviously played a bit more last week. Again, she's cheap. If that's, I wouldn't be playing her on field. It would be purely a bench play. But I'm not. I don't know. I'm just probably not sold. But if people are keen on her, then yeah, I'd just be doing it as a bench option only. Heidi Woodley's a name that me and Liam actually didn't talk about last night. So she's priced at 459. I don't actually know why. I can't imagine that she would be one of the most traded. She's only scored 18 last week, 67% game time. So that I would imagine that's probably a mistake. I can't imagine that Heidi Woodley would be someone that people are trading in. But because, she played one game, dropped 90K. Yeah, I can't imagine that she's someone that people are trading in, but I wouldn't be anyway. At most, you'd be watching her this week to see how she goes before you bring her in. Aurora Smith, she had a pretty good game last week, 49, but from what Liam and that were saying, that seems to be like one of the highest scores sort of in any sort of level. So again, 359K, she's going to make cash. I would prefer a Caitlin Pope, a Paris McCarthy, even a Charlie Wicksteed. I think that their scoring potential is better, and I think their job security is pretty much all the same. I think Caitlin Pope would be my pick out of all of them. From all of what she looked pretty good last week with a 37. So again, not a huge score, but she's going to make a bit of cash there. So I would prefer her. But Aurora Smith's not the worst option there. Jazz Garner's the big one. So obviously had a huge game again last week. I'm a bit hesitant to bring her in this week purely on the matchup against Kathy Svark. I think that this could be a game where she has a lower score compared to a 150. Again, I'm not saying she's going to go 60, but I think she can go anywhere from probably a 75 to a 115. I don't see her going like 120 plus. Obviously, she's such a good player that she could on any given week anyway. I just think that this week, more realistically, is probably more of a lower score for her compared to other weeks. So, again, you could probably take that on and just bring her in regardless and sort of hope that she just has a good score even with the tag. But I would probably be just waiting 1 week if you can, and maybe looking at, if you didn't get Bowers last week, maybe get Bowers. If you haven't got Marinoff, Rowbottom, Prasparkas, there's plenty of options. I'd probably go them first before Garner this week. But hey, Garner's such a good player that if you bring her in, she gets taken, you can still go 120. So I would not be begrudging him over doing that. And then the other one here was Laura Gardner. I just saw Liam tune in here. Laura Gardner is, if you don't have her, firstly, what are you? You certainly wouldn't be watching that Sydney game. What are you doing? That's pretty much how it comes down to, because she's been so good. But if you don't have her, she's expensive. You're paying up for her now. She's $1.275 million. That puts her as the she's more expensive than some of these midfielders. Like, she's only behind Hatchard, Riddell, Prasparkas, Rowbottom, Marinoff, Bowers, and Garner in terms of price. So ridiculous. She's the second highest averaging player in the game behind Jazz Garner. She's averaging more than Bowers. So if you don't have her, 100% got to bring her in. Going through just a few lines. Obviously, as I said, defence. I think Evans, Priest, and Daisy Darcy are my favourites. I think Emma Carney's pretty good as well. She's probably not like the name that you sort of like go, I'm not as confident in her going huge, but I think she's just sort of safe and secure, and you know what you're getting from her each week. So they're probably the four that I like the most. Nicole Bresnan could be a good unique. She's been pretty good this year. She's gone at 69, 74, and 76 in the 3 games. So she's been very, very good. So she would be one that you could definitely have a look at there. Isla Sheeran, a bit cheaper than those others, but had a pretty good game last week. Except she had a bit of a quieter second half, only the 16 points, but she scored. I think she was on 61 at half time, so she was going really well in the first half there. So I do like her as a bit of a cheap option. Go down the list here. Who else have people been bringing in? So, like, you've got a few options here in this cheaper price range. So, you've got Geordie Allen at 7.29, Katie Lynch 7.10, Ella Heads at 6.97, and Charlotte Thomas at 6.83. I would prefer Charlotte Thomas out of the 4. She's the cheapest. She's dropped the most, but that was more due to that round 1 game where she was off the ground for a fair bit through, I think she had like a blood rule or something like that. And then it was also the fact that the game got stuck. I remember 1 quarter on the other side, and that was why she was stuck. So on the bench. So I like her the most. Katie Lynch, it's a nervous ride. It's sort of you could get a 30, you could get an 80 or a 90. It could be one of the two. Again, she's dropped a bit of price, so it probably alleviates a bit of that risk. And if you're going a lister to her, then at worst case, you're getting probably the same score. So I don't mind her. Geordie Allen, I'd be just keeping an eye on. I'd be waiting probably till like a Lauren Butler comes back. I think she's listed as 1 to 3 weeks on there on the Collingwood injury report. And then also when Slisher comes back, I think she's 2 to 4 weeks away, so a bit longer for Ruby Slisher. But I'd probably be waiting to get Geordie Allen at least until one of those girls come back into the team. So I'd be waiting on her. And then Ella Heads, bit nervous after she played well last week, but she was only on, I think, what was she on? She would have been, I think, 23 points, I think, at 3-quarter time. She had a 39-point last quarter. So again, that shows that she's got the ability to have big quarters and she can put up some good scores, but it also shows that 3 quarters she was only on about 20 points. So it probably, I don't know if I'd be trading her in, especially at 6.97 when you've got these other options probably around her that have probably got the more consistent scores. So, yeah, that would just be how I'd be playing it. And then you've got like a Nat Grider who's a bit cheaper that I know Liam's a bit keen on, and she's been getting her scores been getting better each week, and she's got a pretty nice run coming up. So she could be a good option that's a bit cheap. She's down to 177k on the year. Again, very similar to Charlotte Thomas because that round 1 score of only 30 points. But we do know that Richmond are a very restrictive side to score against. So they'd be the defender targets in terms of like your sort of upper echelon. I'll just have a look here if there's any players below that I'd be looking at here. I don't think so. I think that's probably about the names that you'd probably be looking at. Obviously, we talked about is there any rookies in defence this week that people could be looking at bringing in? Or just so obviously we talked about Emily Everest before, but I'm a little bit sort of suspect if she can keep it going. But if that's the one you want to go for, then you can get her. Poppy Bolts has held her spot for the 3rd week in a row. I know she hasn't scored great, but she's 327. If you're looking for a downgrade, she could be the answer to get sort of the cash to get the upgrade on the other side. So yeah, they're probably the picks there. Moving to the midfield, we talked about obviously a couple of the midfielders already, but if we are looking at sort of your top top price players, Bowers I think is going to go big this way. I think she'll be back to her very, very high scoring ways last week, as me and Liam discussed last night, and as Liam discussed on the free kick pod earlier in the week, that Bowers was always first to the ball against Hawthorn, which normally in other games she's sort of 50-50. She's sometimes first, sometimes not, which allows her to get her tackles, but also get her disposals. Whereas last week there wasn't as many chances to get her tackles, but yet she still had 8. So Bowers I think Bowers only got a handful of times in single-digit tackles. So I would be really looking at her as a target. If you didn't have her, I'd be getting her over Jazz Garner this week if you had the choice. Emily Marinoff, as always, if you don't have her, I still think she's a great option. Charlie Rowbottom and Georgie Prasparkas are both good options. They're within 14k of each other. That's been a pretty common question this week. Who are people going between Rowbottom and Prasparkas? I've been sort of tossing between the two each throughout the week. I've been sort of Prasparkas at one point, row bottom, Prasparkas row bottom. I'm currently on row bottom. I think Prasparkas, she had that huge game round one. I don't know if she's going 147 every week. And Becky Webster's back. Does that take anything away from Prasparkas' start to the season? I don't think it does. But sort of if there's little tiny flags, and that's probably it. Whereas if you look at Charlie Rowbottom, nothing's changing in that Gold Coast midfield. She's obviously been huge to start the season. Again, yes, the first two games she did play two of the easier opponents, and last week she only got an 81, but it was a very low-scoring game. I'm not too worried about the lower score there. I think she'll be back up scoring well this week. She's got the Bulldogs this week. I think she could feast and have a pretty good game against the Bulldogs. And I think also Sparks could have a good game against Port. So that's what makes it hard, because I think both could go pretty well. I'm just currently row bottom at this stage over Sparks. And probably a little bit as well of that is also the uniqueness. Row bottom only 14.99%, so 15%, and Sparks is 45%. So probably sort of going sort of a little bit unique there, but I do like both. I think either or are great options. If you can only afford Prasparkas, I think it's still a great option, because if you need the 14k, I guess if you fall just short of trades, I like both. So I'd be happy with either. Ash Riddell, I'm trading her this week. I'm still sort of, I could just see it blowing up in my face. I could see it going big this week against, even though it's a tough matchup against Brisbane. She's been the top scoring player against Brisbane in the last two games against them. So I don't know if it matters too much about recent history against teams, unless it's like regarding a tag. But 151 last, the week before last. So she's got that ceiling. I think Jenna Bruton, which we'll find out in just over half an hour, she's been officially named to the side because she's on the extended bench, but I imagine that she will be. With her back to the side, that ceiling's probably capped a bit. So I'm having a trader, especially if I'm going to a row bottom for Sparkus, where I expect both of those two to be in the top five midfielders come the end of the season. So that's why I'm looking at that. Apologies. So I still got the sniffles. So Riddell, I'm looking at trading, but I think if you've got other issues, I don't think it's a necessity to trade her out. I'm just doing it because I feel like the rest of my side is okay, and I can make that move. Anne Hatchard, very, very good last week with 133, sort of her first big game of the season. Sort of, I think a few people in the first couple rounds were sort of miscounting her a little bit, but she got 100 against Port while giving away 4 free kicks. She got a 97 against Richmond with only 19 touches, which is very unlike Anne Hatchard. Normally has a lot more. She started, I think, a bit slower in that game, but really worked her way into the game late. Even last week, she started slow, but really got going after quarter time. I think she had an 83 or 84 point second half or something, so she went really big in the second half. So I like her. The only thing that probably sort of stops me from bringing her in is that this week she's got GWS, and I would anticipate that an Annalise Lister will go to her over at Marinoff, just with sort of her sort of line breaking power and marking prowess. Sort of, I think that she's probably the easier of her and Marinoff to tag, but I don't think either are easy to tag either. I think both have got the traits where they're just very, very hard to sort of keep up with. But it's sort of the week after as well that Lucy Single is going to be up against the Crows, because Adelaide got Gold Coast. So I think Single will go to Anne Hatchard in that game. So, and that's why I'd be a bit nervous there. And then Adelaide got Melbourne. So sort of 3 games in a row that are a little bit tougher, I guess, for Anne Hatchard specifically. But I think after that game, I think Anne Hatchard should be a good option to bring in. And she's still a great option to bring in. It's just with these top price players, it's sort of, so you've got to nitpick in a way to sort of see who you're going to pick there. Going through here, I think A. McDonald's underpriced compared to everyone else. She's down 126k for the season. Went down 123k last week on the back of. She went down 126k last week. So she's down 123k for the season on the back of a 73. So obviously not a huge score. Only had the 18 touches, 1 mark, 9 tackles. I like her as an option. Again, I'd probably be waiting 1 week just to see how the midfield mix goes with Becky Webster back. But I don't think it's going to matter to McDonald and Prespa. I think it more affects Nina Morrison, who we'll talk about in the forward line in a sec. But I think McDonald, I do like a bit underpriced there. Same with the Emma Swanson. They're probably the two players, if you're looking at a midfielder anywhere around that sort of million to 1.2 million price tag, they're probably the picks there that I like. Going down the list, is sort of, I think with the midfield, it's pretty much you're going up to the top or you're going and getting a rookie on the bench. I think the only couple that you could look at, which is the play that I'm doing, is going like a Benici or whatever down to a Ty Smith, who is 682k, going up lots of money, went up 217k last week with a 93. I'm doing it to sort of bank cash for one, but two, also get hopefully a couple 100k this week, and then in a couple of weeks' time, be able to move Ty Smith over to a midfield primo, as Ty Smith would now be sort of considered my sort of weakest player on field, because I'm essentially going at least listed to Ty Smith to keep that cash gen going, really. So, yeah, so I like her as an option. Then also Jean Anscombe on after a impressive game against the Crows last week. I think she got, what was it? She got an 85, was it? Yeah, 85 last week. Looked really good. The low game time is sort of with 6-7% is just sort of a flag there, but I don't see it being a huge issue. Same with Tyson, but she's got low game time as well. She had 89% against the Bombers, but 70% the other two games. So I think both are good options. I'd prefer Ty Smith out of the two. She's a tiny bit cheaper as well. I think it's only like a couple of K difference between the two. Yeah, it's 9k difference. Nanscorn is 691 and Ty Smith is 682. But I would prefer Ty Smith, I think, first. Looking at rookies, Denny Varnhagen has been named for the Crows. If you need a basement price midfield, I think she's a good option. Obviously, she's experienced. Again, she's not going to be a huge scorer, but if you're going to get someone that's experienced and can hopefully hold their spot on the side, I think she would probably be the pick there. And I think the cheap rookies, I think Caitlin Pope is still my pick. Charlie Wicksteed is a good option there as well, and Paris McCarthy are the three. I'd prefer them over Aurora Smith, personally, and I'd prefer Caitlin Pope the most, but also like Paris McCarthy and Charlie Wicksteed as well. So they're the three probably cheap midfield rookies. Rucks is probably not too much to speak about. I think if you've got Maddie Schultz, you're not trading her out yet. And if you've got someone else, I think you're going to. I would go to Ali Morfitt with the matchup this week, and I think that of how good she's looked. But you've also got a Alice Edmonds who's cheaper, who's had a couple of sort of down games with 65 and 52 in the last two. But I expect her to respond with better games moving forward. She could do it all, and she hasn't sort of been doing it all. The last couple of weeks, she had 16 touches in round one. She's only had 7 and then 6 in the last 2 weeks. She had 5 marks in round one, only 3 and then 1. And then she had 8 tackles in first round. Then she had 5 and 5. So she's still tackling. It's just the touches and the marks are a little bit down. And her hit-outs were even a bit down last week. So I expect her to respond. She might even keep dropping price. So maybe you wait a week or two for getting her in. And Bree Moody, I wouldn't be getting her in just yet. She's still sharing with Jess Good. And she had a good game last week, but she did play a very easy matchup in West Coast. We know how good Bree Moody is, but until sort of we see her get like the lion's share of the ruck, I wouldn't be looking there yet, as she's still 926. There'll become a point where if she gets too cheap, then we could look at moving on. But she did actually go up 79k last week after that huge game. So that's probably the ruck talk. If you're looking for a cheap ruck on the bench that to sort of downgrade to, you've got a Ariana Hetherington, who is 327k, who has sort of been looking better each week. I know she's got a bit lower last week, but she looked all right the week before, 42. Didn't go up much after only scoring 12 the week before and only hardly playing any game time. So, again, just an option to put on your bench to just make a bit of cash there. And then Lauren Wackfer as well, who looks like to be West Coast sort of number one at this stage moving forward at 359. I'd probably, if you can pay up for her, I would, because she's going to make more cash. But if you need to save the money, I don't mind doing that on the ruck bench. Moving to the forwards, and then I'll go through everyone's questions. The big one, I think, is Nina Morrison. Are people going to be moving off her or not? I'm holding her this week with the Port matchup. I think it's a good matchup. I think she'll still score well regardless if she was to play wing. But I think this week is a good week to watch the Port Geelong game and just sort of look at her role, and don't, as Liam said, don't look at her score because she still might score really well. But look at her role. If she's still got a decent enough CBA mix of maybe 40, 50, 60%, then I think there's nothing too much to worry about, at least in the short term. But if she automatically goes to a 15, 20% midfielder and becomes like the fourth and fifth option in the Geelong midfield, then that's when we can potentially look at moving her on, because she is over $1.1 million. You can get like these, like your Too Good and your Kate Hawes and players like that around her, that it's not much. It's, you make cash by going to Too Good. It doesn't cost much to go to a Kate Hawes. So I think a few coaches may do that this week, just if they've got no issues. And I'd certainly don't mind that player being aggressive, but I'd probably wait just 1 week to see how she goes. But yeah, I think if you don't have Gardner, she'd be the number one option if you didn't have her. And I think going a Morrison to a Gardner regardless is probably a good move anyway. But I think a lot of people have got Gardner by now anyway. She's owned by over 34%. Chloe Malloy, very good option. She's cheaper than the others there at 979k. Got tagged last week by Spark. I don't expect that to be sort of regular occurrence week in, week out. I think she'll get tagged on the odd occasion, but that score could have been a lot better as well. She had 4 behinds and 2 free kicks against. So in any other week, she kicks those goals and she scores a solid score even in tag. So, damn, apologies. I thought I put myself on mute. Sorry, just this bloody cold is doing my head in. I was just clearing my nose. Apologies if anyone didn't like that, the sound there. Anyway, we're going to keep pushing through. Going in here, Sarah Rose's been scoring really well. I think if you guys have been tuning into the game day squad stuff with me and Tom, I think we've been saying she's very game day squad relevant because you can make as many changes to your lineup as possible week in, every week. But I think I'm just still a bit nervous with the wingers. So if anyone was looking at her, I think she's too expensive now to probably take that risk there. Paxman looked good last week. Kicked a couple of goals, scored an 80. A little bit lower game time last week. I don't know if I'd be bringing her in just yet. I'd probably be waiting another week or so just to see how she goes this week. But she did look better last week, so definitely someone to keep an eye on. Ella Roberts, good option as well. Looked better last week after sort of a quieter game in a bad defeat against Gold Coast. But last week was really good. And yeah, I think she's still a very good option there. Erin Phillips, people be talking about if they're going to trade her or not. I'm still holding her. She still had 21 disposals last week. Just only had the 1 mark. So I'd still be holding her, and I still don't actually hate the idea of bringing someone like Erin Phillips in. Just with they've got a very good run coming up as well. I think Geelong are a little bit tougher, but they've got good fixtures after that. So Erin Phillips, I still have on the list of potential targets there. Moving down the list, I'm just keeping an eye on Chelsea Randall. She's gone down a lot of cash, as Liam said. Just keeping an eye on to see for subtle role changes with her, to see if she goes into the midfield or goes more forward and then pushes into the midfield, because she's going to be very cheap and get to a point where even if you're going if it's a Morrison down to Randall, for example, that you're making yourself potentially 300 over 300k, where obviously you're going to want to see if Morrison was out of the midfield mix and then Randall was sort of back in the midfield mix, but someone just to keep an eye on just based on how cheap she's getting. Continuing to move down the list, Taylor Harris again, another probably name that has dropped a lot, that just for coach to keep an eye on, with a couple of lower scores there. 53 and 46 their last 2, but I still don't mind her, especially at that bit cheaper price as well. And then probably the other one is Zali Goldsworthy, who is cheap and has looked really good the last couple of weeks. Scored a 70 last week, 81 the week before. Both games she's not come off the bench. Gone onto the bench. She's played 100% game time both games. Even week 1, she played 90%. So I like her as that cheap forward to make a bit of cash there. So she would be not a bad target. And then in terms of rookies, what have we got in terms of rookies here in the forward line? He's going slow again. Apologies for the wait there. So what have we got? We got Izzy Huntington still there at 300k. She only scored 11 last week. I think she's still a fine option to bring in, especially if Postlethwaite's on your bench. You can make a couple 100k there, but going down to Huntington to use that cash elsewhere. But I would probably just wait a week on Huntington just to see how she goes against the Crows. I don't know if she'll score particularly well against Adelaide either, but I'm actually looking at going Postlethwaite to Huntington next week. And waiting for Postlethwaite to go up a little bit more cash this week. But he's definitely a play that you can either make this week or just sort of keep in mind for future weeks in terms of other options to look at the forward line. You've got Amy Mackin, who I think I'd probably pick over Huntington this week if you're looking for a rookie, because I know Liam was talking about her last night, but sort of got good raps on her from Ireland there. Obviously, the sister of Bly Mackin. So I like her as an option, 300k. Melbourne don't, as Liam said, Melbourne don't have too many rookies. Too many outs at the moment that sort of suggest that Mackin would just necessarily be dropped next week. Like even if she had a good performance. So I like her as an option. I think she could score. She could score right especially in the Melbourne side that do share the ball around and get everyone involved. So I'd like her there. Sort of scrolling through the names here. I think is Maddie Gorham a forward in official? I think she might be. I'm just sort of okay. So Maddie Gorham, was she a midfielder? Did I miss her in the mids? Midfielder, 453. So she had a good game last week in the mids if you're looking for someone that had a good game last week. All right, so let's get smashing through some questions. So again, if you guys are watching on YouTube or Twitter, make sure you do, or X, make sure you put your question in the comments and I'll get to answering those now. So the first one, up the Hawks. Hey, Bale, should I trade out Cordner for Priest? I think if you've got no issues, I think that is definitely a play that you could look at doing. Cordner has got Peterson back this week. Richmond are, I think, the hardest matchup for defenders, if I'm not mistaken. So Cordner may have a bit of a lower score this week. I don't think she's a necessity to trade out, especially if you've got like a Lister, if you've got other issues. But if you don't, trading out Cordner is a good play. And then Hannah Priest, I think, if you've got Tani Evans, she's probably the next best option just with the midfield role that she's playing. As I said, I'm bringing her in this week as well. She's gone, she's been very consistent. Like she's gone 77, 66, and 85. So, I like her as an option playing in the midfield. So, Cordner to Priest, I would tick it off. Mitchell Finch, is it crazy to go Gardner into row bottom as a VCC option? No, it's not crazy at all. No, Gardner is a very, very good VC captain option this week against West Coast after seeing what she did last week. And then row bottom against the Bull is a good option as well. So I think both of them would be top option. That's actually probably a good segue to quickly just discuss captains, which I know that Liam put up his captain article on DT Talk. So, okay, I don't know why my computer's saying that Google's a bad website on my computer. No idea why, but while I get that up, I'll just answer. Actually, hang on, here we go. So it's finally out. Thank you. So Liam's captains for this week. Okay, it's going slow again. So maybe we're not going to be able. Okay, I'll answer a couple of questions while that loads. Then we'll get into the captains in a sec. Hugh, Gardner, a sensible VC, just have to be confident in row. By the way, that was just confident before. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Connor Johns should. Oh, hang on, no, that was from the. He had a question above here. So, 2 rookies down and Benici to Hatchard, Davey to Prasparkas, Amy Smith to Priest, or Schultz to Morfitt, or Phillips to Goldsworthy and Amy Smith and Riddell to Priest and Prasparkas. There's a lot of trades there, Connor, so I don't actually know exactly sort of what ones you can do and what ones you can't. Hang on. So you're saying 2 rookies down, then going Benici to Hatchard, Davey to Prasparkas, Smith to Priest, or Schultz to Morfitt, or Phillips to Goldsworthy. I don't think I'd be doing the Schultz to Morfitt move. I don't think there's a need to go Schultz out to Morfitt. I think Amy Smith to Priest a good move. I think Ace has been scoring well, but you're getting a top 5 defender in. So I think that's a move out of those I like. Davey to Prasparkas, if you've got no issues, that's not a bad move either to go get George Prasparkas there. I don't know if I'd be doing Phillips to Goldsworthy unless you can really make that cash work. I think Riddell out would be potentially a good move as well. So you could go Riddell to Prasparkas, Amy Smith to Priest, and then maybe a rookie down if that works, Connor. Maybe that works for you. Smith Chips, Benici to Smith, Riddell to Garner and either heads or corner to Priest. Well, yeah, I like those trades. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I'd be going corner, I think, out first because I think heads is still the main distributor back for Sydney, whereas corner with Peterson coming back, Gab Pound's back there, Lalauifi's, a lot of players that get the ball back there. I'd probably be jumping off before the crowd. So getting Priest a good option as well. Garner, again, if you want to bring her in this week, I think she's still a very good option to bring in. Just that flag that she will likely get that tag this week from Kathy Zvark. So that's finally loaded now on my computer. So at number one, it's probably not huge shock that she's number one most weeks, but it is Kiara Bowles against the Bombers, and I really like her as an option. As Liam said last night, small ground, plenty of tackles could be on offer there. I think Bowles is a great option. I expect her to respond this week. She'll have double-digit tackles again and be back to another good score. Marinoff at number two, which I like as well. She's my VC going into Bowers. I don't think Marinoff's going to get the Lister tag. I think it's going to go to Hatchard. But even still, I don't think Lister's going to be able to stop Marinoff. So I like Marinoff there. Laura Gardner at three, which I really like this as an option if you want to go a bit different this week. Huge score last week. Eagles a good matchup. I like her there. Number four, Georgie Rasparkas against Port Adelaide. Again, another very good option, good matchup, and we know she's got a ceiling. So, and when does she play on? No, so she plays on the. Actually, no, that's round four. No, hang on, look at the wrong round. Rasparkas plays the early game. 12:35. So 1:05 on Saturday. So she could be a VC. So Praspar's a good VC option. And it could be that one that you go instead of Marinoff just to maybe escape a potential tag. So Praspar's a good option there. Roy Bottom, number five against the Bulldogs. Yep, I think she's going to go big this week. Got the final to go the round as well. So if you had a Bulldogs, Gold Coast, St Kilda, it's only a Bulldogs or Gold Coast play. If you had one of those as a red dot, you could go Bowers VC into Roy Bottom if that's something that you were keen on there. And Hatchard at six. That tag sort of risk is a little bit there, but I don't expect it to sort of hamper Hatchard too much. I still think she'll go all right. I just don't know if I'd go her captain this week. VC could be a play if you don't have Marinoff and you want to go Hatchard there. And then Bree David, number seven against the Saints. I think she could have a good game this week and put up a good score without too much attention. I think Priest will go to her potentially, but I don't think it'll do too much. Looking at a few other options here, so as Liam said, Garner, as he said, big call to leave the high scoring player out of the top four, the top seven. But yeah, that tag is that risk there that you probably don't want to be captaining her this week. I think a lot of people still will just because of how well she's gone, but I'd be steering clear this week. Ash Riddell, yeah, I don't know if I'd be captaining her this week, but could go well like Gardner did last week when Malloy got tagged. So that's something to keep an eye out there for. Maddie Prasparz against Freo. Doesn't have that ceiling, but could still put up a decent score this week against Freo in a decent enough matchup there. Okay, we'll go back to the questions. Luke Bowman, thoughts on Carney to Gunjaka, Postlethwaite to Van Hagen, and either Anthony to Ali Anderson, Benici to Prasparkas, or Rowbottom. Or Rowbottom, and then Phillips to Hoare or Toogood. So I don't know if I'd be doing Carney to Gunjaka. I'm not sold on Gunjaka as being a consistent option. She had a good game last week. She played very, very well. I just think that there was a lot of chipping back there. Sheila was a late out. So I just think that was more a case of Sheila being out. She could sort of play the intercepting role and not really have an opponent per se. So I don't think I'll be doing that trade, Luke. But Postlethwaite to Van Hagen to make cash. And then in terms of the other four trades, I'm not sure about Ali Anderson. I think, the tag risk each week, and I don't think she's got that same consistent ceiling. She's got the ceiling, probably not the consistent ceiling like those other big midfielders have got. Benici to Prasparkas is a bad option there, or Rowbottom. I'd go Rowbottom over Prasparkas. That's just how I'm leaning to at the moment. And then Phillips to Kate Hoare or Toogood. I really like Toogood. I think it's still Kate Hoare. I think Kate Hoare is still the pick out of the two, but I still do really like Too Good as an option. But yeah, it's Kate Hoare out of the two, I think. Next one comes from John. He says, cash strapped in AFLW format. Thoughts on Davies to Van Hagen in utility, Scanner to Everest, then one of Riddell Robon to one of Riddell. Oh, hang on, no, sorry, my bad. I rewrote. Going one of Riddell to Rowbottom, Hooker or Morrison to Malloy, or Lister to Thomas. I think the fact that you could go Lister to Thomas or Hooker to Malloy, I think rules out the Riddell to Rowbottom, just because I think Riddell can still score well regardless. I think out of those, I'd be going Lister to Thomas, because I think I've got more faith in Hooker and Morrison scoring better than Lister. And I think Thomas could go well. But then if you want that ceiling this week, Malloy's got a good matchup. I think it's still Lister to Thomas personally for me. That's what I'd be doing. And then John said in Murray's Magic, overall rank of 66. Most happy with on-field teams. Thoughts on Davies to Aurora Smith in utility, Huntington to Gorham at F6, and then Bush to Everest on the bench. I don't think I'll be doing Huntington to Gorham. I think Huntington is basement. I'd just be keeping her. If you can downgrade someone else, that's probably the play. But the other ones, I think I'm doing very so. I'm just getting cash this week in Moreira's Magic. I've still got to make my last trade, but I think it'd just be a Lana G to a Paris McCarthy or someone like that, and getting a midfield in. Because I've got Nan scoring on the bench. So if I want to go an Anthony or an Anscore in a few weeks' time, going them down, I can then I don't have to get a midfielder. So I think, yeah, I'll probably go and getting a Paris McCarthy. Actually, she's a forward, McCarthy. So, but anyway, I think that's probably where I'm leaning to at the moment, and just banking cash there. Josh says, what should be my priorities? Getting Pedici up, or even trading down and playing Smith on field, or trying to get Cordner or Heads or Maloney up to, say, Hoare? I think the priority there would be getting Darcy Maloney up to Kate Hoare. I think she back-to-back 40s. I think that first game, as Will said earlier in the week on the Free Kick Pod, probably a bit of an anomaly in a way, how well she scored. And they scored so many points in that game as well. I think that I'd be trading her out and going up to Kate Hoare. That would be probably the priority there. Bryony says, who goes first to Too Good, Phillips or Neve Kelly? Oh, that's a tough question. Neve Kelly's been very, very good. I think it is Neve Kelly. If you're going one of the two up, I think Phillips has got the better role. I think she's got the high ceiling. Neve Kelly's been very good, but I think that it's probably a matter of time before she does put up a floor score, unfortunately. So, I think that's probably why I would be, that's probably why I'd be trading her out instead. It's a tough call, but I'd be probably keeping Phillips and going Neve and trade Neve Kelly first. Jack says Everest thoughts used a lot in defence last week. I think she's definitely options as a rookie. I'm sort of tossing up if I go her or Paris McCarthy in Moreira's Magic. But I think in official, I think it's a weird price. Again, if you can do the trades that you want to do by by doing that move, and you can do the other trades around it, I think it's a good option. But I don't necessarily think you have to get Emily Everest in. I've just currently brought her in Moreira's Magic, just probably with that low break even to make cash. So it's weird because I'm doing 3 downgrades, which is very odd. But I guess the rest of my team, Moreira's Magic, is fine on field. So let me just double check that everything's good. We'll play Kiara Miller over Emily Everest, I think, this week. Just got to refresh there. Number 4, thoughts on trades. Cordner to Thomas, Ty Smith to Aurora Smith, and Postlethwaite to Paxman. I wouldn't be doing those trades. I think Cordner to Thomas is good to get a bit of cash, and you're getting probably a more consistent defender, I think, because just because we don't know what Cordner's going to do when with Peterson in the team this week. Ty Smith to Aurora Smith. I don't think I'd be trading Ty Smith yet. I'd be holding her to see her making more cash this week and waiting. And Aurora Smith, I'd be getting Caitlin Pope if you go down, or Wicksteed or Paris McCarthy first. I think it goes Pope, McCarthy, Wicksteed in order. But yeah, I'd be holding Ty Smith personally. Then I don't know if I'd be getting Paxman in yet. I'd probably be waiting another week. I think there are probably better options anyway to Paxman this week. So yeah, I'd probably be looking at doing another couple of moves there for those. Corey, Priest, Bresdahan, or Darcy this week? I'd be going Hannah Priest this week. If you want a real pod, Bresdahan could be that real pod for you. Even Daisy Darcy's a good pod as well. I was Darcy for most of the week, but that was probably because I couldn't afford Priest. But I think Priest in midfield time is probably the pick there, so I'd probably be going her. Tim Flicker, tick off these trades. Riddell to Davey, Phillips to Paxman, Sensei to Thomas. I think Sensei to Thomas is a tick. Riddell to Davey's an interesting one. Going and getting Davey this week. I don't know if I'd be bringing Davey in now. I'd probably be looking at another option. And then I wouldn't be doing Phillips to Paxman personally. So I think Phillips will score more than Paxman from here on in. But the first, I do like the Sensei to Thomas trade though. So if you can work around that, I like that there. Hewitt's Hurd, is Hatchard okay to bring in for one good matchup before a single tag, then trade to Garner next week? Already have Rowbottom, Prasparkas, Bowers, and Marinoff. Depends who you're going to Hatchard. It is realistic you could do that. You could get Hatchard this week. But then again, I think she could get the tag this week. So if you probably bring her in for 1 week, I'll just go, if you can get Garner in this week, I'll just bring her in if you're getting some with a tag, because you're going to want Garner, I think, more than Hatchard based on what we've seen. So that's what I would do. There, Mark, Riddell to Rowbottom, Lister to Grider, or Riddell to Georgie Prasparkas and Lister to Thomas. I think it is. Hang on. That's probably where that 14K difference comes into play. In that case, I would go Prasparkas and Charlotte Thomas. I prefer Charlotte Thomas over Nat Grider, and I think Rowbottom and Prasparkas are very similar in terms of who I'd rather. So I think that the deciding factor is, I'd rather Thomas over Grider personally. Filsey, which is a bigger priority, Lister to Thomas or Benici to Prasparkas or Rowbottom? I think it's Lister to Thomas. I think Lister has been scoring so low, and I just don't know if I see it improving a huge amount. And I think you're going to gain 20, potentially 30 points on with that trade. But each of Prasparkas, you might lose points based on sort of the midfield primos and what they can do week to week. If you're looking for the ceiling play, I think that you could go Benici to Rowbottom if you're looking for a ceiling. But I'd probably go Lister to Thomas first. Moving along to some other questions. What have we got? We'll go to some YouTube ones. We did a few ones on Twitter there. Emily's got this one. Hey guys, who's the best 300k player to bring in at utility? Also, who would you trade out first, single or corner? And who's best 631k or below? So we'll go for the first one. Who's the best 300k player to bring in at utility? I think it's probably Mackin from Melbourne. Van Hagen could be the option with the experience at 300k. I think probably a good question for Liam. So I know Liam's listening. So Liam, mate, probably put in the comments if you can, just on Twitter, who you prefer at 300. Who'd be your pick of the 300k rookies? Is it Mackin? Is it Van Hagen? Is it still Huntington? Probably with the better job security. That'd be a good one there, probably for other people as well, because I think a few people might want that 300k rookie. I think Mackin, I think with the pedigree that she's had from Ireland, I think she won back-to-back sort of MVP awards or something. So probably her, but I think Huntington for the job security. And then who would you trade at first, single or Cordner? I think Cordner's probably the play that you get at first because there's a few good defender options to look at that are not too much more expensive than Cordner. I think the question marks around Peterson back in is probably why I'd lean that way. But single to Hoare, if you could afford that, is also a good play. But I think it is Cordner out because I think I'd rather single. Probably got the better role. And then who's the best defender for 631k below to bring in? I think it is Nat Grider. I'm pretty sure she's bang on 631, if I'm not mistaken. So Nat Grider is 631 on the dot. So I think that she is the one that I would get there. And Liam just commented saying he would go Mackin only just, but Mackin would be his pick, and I tend to agree with that as well. But I'd be listening to Liam over me because he is the expert. I'm just thinking what I'm going to do. So hang on, Collingwood. just thinking if I reverse my trades and official, just so I don't get locked out if there's any late outs. So Collingwood, actually, I'm just going to quick double check this and then we'll answer more questions. So Collingwood St Kilda play Sunday, so I can reverse that definitely. Riddell to Robon, Riddell plays tomorrow. Actually, no, hang on, but I can. Actually, no, it's fine because I can reverse those trades anyway. And then Lister plays first game tomorrow, so you have to do it. It's fine. No, I'm not going to reverse it. It's all good. So Marinoff VC, Bowers captain. Yeah, good. That's all sorted. I'm just double checking my lineups are sorted so that I can continue answering questions for the last few minutes before we get to watching the games. So yeah, Bowers captain, Bree Davey vice. Actually, no, hang on. I probably want to go in here. I'll probably want to go. I'll go Gardner vice captain. Just for to sort of shout out Laura Gardner as a VC. Yeah, Bowers. So yep. Perfect. All right. Yeah, I reckon that is all sorted. All right, so let's get back to answering these questions. And then we'll get the trimmed down squads in. I think that they should be done now, actually, but don't know if I don't know if too many are, I guess, relevant. So you got Anthony, Woodward, and Vale, Webb, Lakai, and Goranova are the ones emergency. So that means that Ryan Wackford is the single solo ruck against Ali Morford. Great option this week. For North Melbourne, Brisbane, Craven, McGrath, and Burke, Smith, Hillier, and Wendland. So no surprise, Jenna Britton has been named. So that is just that sort of thing to note for North Melbourne mids. Essendon and Freo. You've got Van Loon, Marshall, and Barber, and then Hyde. Tuha I don't know. I butcher that every time, so I'm going to try. But everyone knows Tuha has been dropped, or sort of out of the side, and then Nicky Neal as well is there. St Kilda and Collingwood, McKinnon, Dillon, and Matthews, and then Lynn, Bates, and Blair are the ones that aren't in the side. And then the final game, Gold Coast and Bulldogs. You've got Maurer, McCrossan, and Davies, and then you've got Hunt, Millie Brown, and Bateman are the ones that are not in the side. So if there's any players that people are looking at, like Aurora Smith got named, that's probably the big one there that people may have been nervous on. Let's go rapid fire for the last minute. Bales, do I go single or too good? Single to too good on Morrison. I'd be going too good with the Becky Webster being back in. Up the Hawks. Hey, Bales, would you trade out Neve Kelly for wanting too good? If you've got no other issues, I would. Hang on. Instead of trading corner, I'd be going corner to Priest up the Hawks. I'd be doing that first. Luke Bowman, can do Carney to Thomas, Postlethwaite to Van Hagen, and Benici to Rowbottom instead. This leaves either Anthony or Ty Smith for the final midfield position. Yeah, I like those better. I like those trades better. Up the Hawks is Rodella must trade. She's not a must trade, but if you can get her to another opponent, you've got no other issues. I think that could be a move that you could do there. Jack, trade Allen or Cordner. I'd be trading Cordner just because I think Butler will be back in the next couple of weeks. So I think Allen will be better. And I think she's still safe for a 50 plus anyway. Just doesn't have those ceiling scores at the moment. John, is Van Hagen to McCarthy, or Van Hagen or McCarthy as the best mid-Denver rookie? I'd be going McCarthy, I think, out of the two. We've seen her play a game. She looked pretty good. I know Van Hagen's been, we've seen her in the past, but I just think I'd be going for McCarthy out of the two. And then I reckon it might be lockout, especially when Rosebadge in the game started. So I reckon we'll call it there. I think I got through most of the questions. Apologies, I didn't get to your question today, but I appreciate everyone tuning in for another pre-lockout chat. Apologies for the little bit of a late start today. Had a couple of things going on. Computer was going a bit slow, but appreciate everyone tuning in. If you are watching on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And then also on Twitter, if you haven't followed AFL Fantasy Fanatics, please follow there. Follow myself at BalesDT. We're back on Sunday night with Tom, as always, for another round review, and hopefully it'll be a good round for everyone. I'm doing a watch along tonight for the final. It's going to be partnered with Game Day Squad, so we'll be doing plenty of stuff with that. So if you guys are watching the game tonight and just at home, why not chuck the watch along on, sort of interact with me throughout the game, because it is very interesting when there's people to interact with. And when there's not too many people, it's not it's streamed for 3 hours or 2.5 hours. It's certainly makes it a bit slower. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, make sure I'll catch you guys on Sunday night for round view. Have a good weekend, guys. Cheers.